Um, I'm just going to wait for a while for more people to join. So
Yeah, I'm
I can
sure.
just stick
We'll
until.
give them a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Everyone's joining so fast. I love it.
Whoa.
Hey, everyone who's already here. We'll just let more people join and get started right away.
Yep. I can already see some of my friends.
Must
Can
be
see,
nice.
yeah, I can see Chinedu more. I'm just using this opportunity to shout out to him.
Yeah.
I can see Hasha too.
Yeah. Hey, Harsha.
I don't know if Hasha takes me as his friend, but yes, he's my friend too.
That is such a privilege.
I know.
All right, cool.
By the way, yeah,
Yeah, you were saying?
yeah. Before I just wanted to say, if just to keep the room warm while we wait, people could send send like a message, their name, their Twitter handle if they have one, their location, and their local time in just the hour. So, for example, my name is Chris. My Twitter handle is Lagos. It's Code Beast. I'm from Lagos, and it's currently 4 p.m. here. I'm just going to paste the example in the chat so people can just reply with yes, and we'll just have fun with it.
Yeah.
So if you drop your name, your Twitter handle, your location, and the time, I will shout out to you and thank you for joining. Yay, we have a first one. Jones from Port Harcourt in Nigeria. Thank you. Hasha. Yeah, so it's 8 p.m. in India, in Bangalore.
Yeah, it's almost 8:30 p.m. here.
Yeah.
India has such a weird time zone. It's like there's that half an hour. I
Yeah, yeah.
really don't know how that works. It's so weird to everyone.
Yeah,
Hey Rahul, hey
We
Mohammed.
have Adebola from Lagos too. Um, we have Rahul from Bangalore as well. Mohammed from Kwara. Kwara is in Nigeria as well. So we're having there's Helsinki. So I was about to say we're having more African Asia, but now we have Europe. So hi Nicholas.
From Helsinki. Wow,
Yeah.
people from all around.
Yeah.
It's such a great feeling to be able to see, like, connect online with a diverse group of people, and it's
Yeah.
so exciting.
Shegun from Lagos. Delano from Namibia. Yay. That's another African country.
Hey Sean,
Yeah.
from
How is
Atlanta.
it pronounced? How is that pronounced? Shaddad, right?
Shadab, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Chinedu more. Kevin from Ghana. Hi. Yeah, we have more African people in the room. Now I'm happy.
Such a homey feeling.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to do the introduction before we get
Yeah,
started? Actually, I'm
yeah.
going to bring
Let's
you on.
let's get started, and people can keep on joining eventually.
Yeah.
Cool. So, hey everyone, hey folks, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm just quickly gonna share my screen so that we can move on. All right. Can you all see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
Cool.
Mm,
So, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here with this workshop. We're super excited here. Let's get started. Without further ado, I'm Vishwa. I'll be your host today. And we'll be learning about how to build a GraphQL API in minutes, a workshop for Frontend Developers by Christian Nwamba. Christian's introduction, let's move on to that. So a bit about Christian. Christian is a senior cloud developer advocate at Microsoft. His time is mostly spent on working with developers to figure out how stuff works. And he does this through workshops, conferences, and online contents. I've seen him speak at events, and it's amazing. Super excited to have you here with us, Christian. So Christian is currently working on a GraphQL workshop that teaches how to solve advanced business logic problems with GraphQL and serverless. Christian thinks he will make a good teacher someday. Wow. I have a lot of friends, like developer friends who are such, like, they're just amazing on tech. So it's so nice to see another person trying that out. I'm sure you're gonna do really great. So just a quick guideline on how to interact here is that all the attendees can, if they can just scroll to the bottom panel, what they can see is there is a question panel and a chat panel. So if you have any specific questions that you want to ask the presenter about, any questions, any difficulties you're having setting anything up, you can just drop those questions. And when Christian sees them, he will, like, when he gets to them, he'll be able to answer your questions. And any other general chats, any messages you want to drop, you can drop it in the chat section to sort of interact with other attendees. Just make yourself comfortable. And yeah, I think we're good to go. So without taking much of your time, let's get started. All the best, Christian. Over to you.
Thank you.
I'll stop sharing my screen.
Oh, yeah. Cool. I'm going to start sharing mine now. I can pull up my slides. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
And you can see the HEM website, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Feel free to stop me at any moment in the chat, or just ask questions at any moment in the chat, and I'll be happy to jump on it to answer those questions. My name is Christian, just like she already said. Today we'll be learning a lot about how to build GraphQL APIs coming from a front-end perspective. And this is from a personal experience as someone who is a religious front-end developer. I do a lot of front-end stuff, but what happens is I really like GraphQL. I use Apollo client to consume GraphQL APIs. But then this is when I'm working with teams or when I'm using a third-party GraphQL API, this is generally not a problem. But where I have strong challenges, imagine if I wanted to build a full stack app to help my team get some things done, or probably to just have a side project where I build everything from scratch. That means I have to go build a GraphQL API myself. So, and then if you ever try this, you know the painful, you must have known what that painful experience feels like, trying to write schemas and resolvers and basically get the ball rolling for a GraphQL API. I ended up running into this open source project called Hasura, and it literally changed my developer experience. And I wanted to share it with everyone during this workshop and see if you can find it useful as well. Before I introduce myself, I'll tell you more about myself. I want to show you this workshop I'm working on. This workshop is based on Hasura, and it's about how to build end-to-end custom business logic apps with Hasura. So basically what's going to happen is you would learn a lot about the three-factor app, where basically you have a front-end app that connects to a database through Hasura, and then you can extend the behavior of that app using serverless. So I've been working on this workshop for a while now, and you might find it useful. It's a lot of content, and it takes you from literally beginner level to moving data to the cloud, and those kind of like really advanced things that most articles or most online contents don't always cover. Yep. So back to my slides. Just like Visha said, my name is Christian Nwamba, and you can find me on Twitter as CodeBeast. And if you're interested in learning more about this workshop, I always tweet about GraphQL stuff, so you can follow me on Twitter to learn more about these things. But I just have to warn you about one thing, though. There's this misconception that people have generally when they haven't met me and just know who I am from the internet. For some reason, this is what they expect to see because of the Twitter handle, because the Twitter handle says CodeBeast. But I promise CodeBeast was just me looking for a free free Twitter handle, and then I realized that one was free, and I just went with it. But honestly, in real life, I'm more like this person. And if you're wondering which of these animals I am, I'm the black dog. So yeah. And if you want to follow along with these slides, you can go to bit.ly/GAPI-FE-20. So I'll just give everyone 1 minute to either take a picture of this or just type it in your browser. Now, what these slides basically have is just, what this link basically has is just this same slide you're looking at right now. So if you want to follow along, but the slide, everything is going to end up being live coded. This slide is just to give you some background on why we're even doing this in the first place. So you're not going to miss much if you don't go through this. If you don't go through the slides with me. Let me take a look at the chat and see if anyone is asking questions. Okay, so continue sharing. At the end of the day, we are going to look at this simple API that just gives you information about a zoo. It's a zoo inventory. We're just going to store information about animals and the classes that these animals belong to. But before we do that, I need you to understand why we are even using a different technology in the first place. Why should you care about Hasura and not just going to build GraphQL from scratch using a GraphQL server library? Well, what happens is, for you to get GraphQL up and running, first of all, you have to start with defining types for each entity in your application. So for example, for our zoo inventory, I have the animal entity, the class entity, and the keeper entity. And for each of these things, I have to create a type for them. And it's not as if everything ends at creating these types. When you're done writing these types, you have to start writing resolvers for each of these types. So if I want to query for all the animals in my database, I have to write an animals query that basically goes to my data source and gets all the animals. If I want to get a single animal, I will do the same thing. And then you will still have to write mutations to even add data to this database. So you have to create a save animal mutation, create an update animal mutation if you want to update an existing animal. That also calls the data source. And I don't even want to go into what the data source class looks like. Now, imagine after writing all this, you still have to deal with things like pagination and filters and sorting and all this kind of basic needs of an API. Now, this is just us talking about animals. We haven't talked about the class entity, because we still have to create, read, update, and delete a class. We haven't talked about the keeper entity, and things start getting repetitive and boring and annoying. And this is just the boring part. The hard part is when you have to start doing things like relationships, authentications, authorizations, granular permissions, and even testing to make sure that your resolvers are working as expected. And sometimes like resolvers are really hard to write, and if you're not careful enough, you might make a lot of mistakes creating them. And what ends up happening is you might fall into this trap where you thought this particular resolver is doing what you needed it to do, and it's basically doing an entirely different thing. So you have to like make sure that these things are working as expected. So what's going to happen is that at the end of this workshop, I'm going to show you an easier way to basically set up a GraphQL API that would let you sleep at night in peace and be rest assured that things are working properly. Now, if you want to follow along with the workshop, the first link I told you was optional. This second link, I highly recommend you click on this link, take a picture of it, and open it on your browser. The link takes you to the GitHub repository where everything we're going to work on today is. So it's basically all hands on henceforth. So please click on this link and let's get started. And while I'm waiting for you to go to this link, I'm going to go to the question board and see if there are anyone I need to answer. Jones is asking if HEM is an abbreviation. HEM, it comes from the word HERMES. He is an old Greek god that is a messenger. So basically, what the app HEM, which we are building from the workshop, is basically going to show you what we're going to build is at the end of that, not today's workshop, but at the end of HEM's workshop is that you view something that connects to a Twitter API, and then people can also join the same room and you can tweet on their behalf if they give you the permission. So basically, and then you can schedule tweets and social media posts. So because HEMS was a messenger, I thought it was a cool name to give the app. Okay, so if you weren't able to get to the slides, trust me that it's not as important as the one I'm showing you right now. If you are able to get this one, let me know. Risha, are you able to get to this link?
So someone in the chat said that the other link that you shared they were able to open it. Yeah, this one is okay. That's good. Cool.
Okay.
You can carry on.
Yeah, this is the important one. This is the end of this slide. So it's not, the slide is just to help get to know me and the content and the goal of this workshop. So I'm hoping everyone have access to the GitHub repository. So while this workshop is going on, please feel free to ask questions. No pressure, of course, but feel free to ask questions in this chat. No matter how basic you feel those questions are, trust me, it's not always that basic. I'll be happy to come back to you and answer those questions. Cool. So let's get started. So this is structuring exercises, and we'll have about 6 exercises to take care of today, or 7 rather. At the end of each exercise, I'm going to give you a room to ask questions, and then I will answer those questions before we move on to the next one. So let's start with exercise 1. There's a startup project, which is basically just a a React app that just presents some data, some static data. Let's clone this repository. Please, I would encourage you to follow along while I'm doing this. Exercise 1, task 1, clone the source code. So copy this code and run it in your terminal. So git clone this URL. I'm just going to clone it in the same, or just call it demo GraphQL API. Now, once I clone this, I can cd into it. And when I'm in this folder that contains the code I just cloned, I can install all of its npm or node dependencies. Once it's done installing, you can run npm, or rather, let me run this on VS Code. So I'll just start VS Code here. Or however you open your code project, or whichever editor you're using, just open this in your code project. I still have to run npm start, but I just want to run it from VS Code because I'll keep working from here, so it makes life easier. I'm going to make this bigger, and I'm going to get another browser tab. Just place it side by side. Now I can run npm start here. So this is supposed to start at port 3000, but my port 3000 is already in use by a different React app, so I had to start on a different port. So 3001, and if I hit enter, you should see this this demo of that's just showing a list of animal classes. You can see this is a mammal and this is a bird, and I also have a reptile. If I click, or if I click on the mammal, the card would flip and show a list of animals that belong in this class. If I click on the bird one, the mammal will close and the bird one will open and show me a chicken and the dog that belongs in the bird class. If I click on reptile, it's also flip and show me a snake. Now, basically what we have so far in this app is an initial data, which is just an exported JSON file that contains each of these types. So you can see the type mammal, that was collapsed, the type bird, and the type reptile. Now, in each of the types, there is a nested animals that contains an array of the animals that belong to this class. Same thing with the bird, and same thing with the reptile. Now, the way I'm using this data is that in the app.js file, I'm importing initial data, and then basically iterating over this data, running initial data.map, and then presenting on the front of the card, I'm showing the type, the class type. So if you look at initial data, you should see that the type is the name of the class. So the mammal type, the mammal class is the name is stored in the type property. So I'm accessing it from the class data.type property. And then I must also have, of course, the background image you're seeing here, which you can find in the data as well. Then at the back, when you flip the card at the back, I'm basically iterating over the animals that are in that JSON and presenting each of them just like you saw here. So this is of course, this is just static data. What we want to do is to create a GraphQL API that would replace this data and then present the data in our app. So I'm going to take, wait, 3 to 5 minutes and answer some questions if you have any. Okay, solely I'll move slowly. So that's why I'm slowing down at the end of each exercise so that you can ask me questions if you are lost. So I'm guessing everyone was able to get to this point, so we are going to move on. And the first step to set up an API is to make sure, of course, you have Docker installed. That was why I in the prerequisites for the workshop, I tried to make sure that I made it obvious that we need Docker for this API. So make sure you have Docker installed, and then create a Docker Compose file. So I'm just going to copy this, go back to my app, and just stop this running for now. Create a Docker Compose file. And you can see this basically just drops a file here. It drops a file at the root of our project. I'm going to open this file. It's currently empty, nothing is in here. Now I need to copy a Docker Compose configuration and paste it here. Now what happens is if you've never used Docker, please, you don't have to worry about this. I'm not a Docker person. I've not used Docker that much, so I just understand the basics of it. But what's going on here is that we are creating a Postgres database. The data is stored in this part on your system, and there is a password for the database. This is the image for the database, Docker image for the database. And then we are also creating a GraphQL engine. This is where Hasura comes in, Hasura GraphQL engine, and the port is exposed on, the port for this app is going to be exposed on 4400. And because, of course, Hasura depends on Postgres, we need to make sure that Docker starts Postgres before it starts Hasura engine. And then you can set some environmental variables like the Postgres database URL, and you can also enable console. I will show you what a Hasura console looks like. Now, once you have this Docker Compose file here, just save, then run Docker Compose. Now, I'm back to my terminal, just in case you're wondering where I am. So back to the terminal, the same route as Docker Compose file, run Docker Compose hop up -d. If you hit enter, this would set up, it will first of all create the Postgres database and then the GraphQL engine. Now this is going to take a little bit longer for you because you have probably not installed the database Postgres before, or this Postgres image, or this one either. So to have to download this from Docker before setting it up. So I'm going to give everyone about 5 minutes to allow this to run before we move on. Please ask your questions if you're lost. Someone is asking, where do I get the Docker Compose file from? Now, if you go to the URL I shared, if you have access to that URL, if you don't, just go to, I'm going to pull up my slides here once more. Go to this link, bit.ly/GAPI/FEW/20. Okay, basically stands for bit.ly/GraphQL API/frontend workshop/2020. So just in case if you're wondering why I have this weird name. Yeah, so bit.ly/GAPI, so rather bit.ly/GAPI-few-20. Now, if you get to this link, what would happen is it will bring you right on this GitHub repository. And if you scroll down, you can follow the exercise. We just did exercise 1, which is set up the front end project. Then the second one was exercise 2, which is where you find the Docker Compose file you're asking for. So first of all, create the file, then copy and paste this inside the Docker Compose file. I hope that answers your question. And if you're lost, feel free to drop questions in Zoom, and I'll be happy to slow down and answer them. Okay, thank you, Adebola. Cool. I'm assuming everyone has Hasura set up now by running Docker Compose or -d. It should be done running for you if you have a fairly stable internet. And if you're not done, feel free to just tell me to hold on so I can wait for you before we move on. Yeah, Charles, I think why I seen that error is because you don't have Docker installed. Okay, if you're still having issues with Docker, I can see Charles has it installed, but it's not starting, and Nonso is having issues as well. Vishwa, I think, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. So how can they join the chat, the Discord channel to ask like Docker related questions?
So they can just join the Discord. Okay, just a minute. I'll share my
Yeah.
screen to show them the link.
Okay. Let me stop sharing.
Yeah. Hey folks, so just quickly, this is the link. You can see it here, discord.gg/Hasura. You just go to the Discord link, go to the new to GraphQL channel, new-to-GraphQL channel, and then tag Christian, Chris #2114, and then just ask away. So you can do that later. Any broad questions that you have, you can ask in the Discord channel. Otherwise, you can just drop any specific questions that you have here, right here in the questions tab.
Yeah, because currently I might not be able to assist you with the specific errors why Docker is not working, but if you paste it there, I'll come back to it later. And there are also like really great folks there, and also Hasura folks who can also answer your questions there.
Yeah. Please carry on, Christian.
Okay. So Nonso and Charles, is that fair enough? Hopefully. Cool. So back to exercises. After running Docker Compose or -d, here it says that you should go to port 4400 to see the backend live. So let's try that. If I go to localhost 4400, and you can see the console is basically here. If you had Docker Compose running fine for you and you're not able to get to this point, can you say that? Can you let me know in the chat? Okay, anonymous attendee says, can I go over the Docker process again? So what's happening is, come to the link you have, then copy this file. First of all, create a Docker Compose file. Just go anywhere on your computer, create a Docker Compose file. I chose to do it in the same place where I have my React code, but it doesn't matter. Just create it anywhere on your computer. But what matters is, after you paste this inside the Docker Compose file, you need to be on the same on the same path. Your terminal have to be on the same place where this file is for you to run Docker Compose or -d. Okay, because it needs to find this file before it starts the console. So you know how we created a Postgres database with the Docker Compose file. Now the fascinating thing is, if I go to the Hasura console and click on data, the data nav item, if you click on this menu, you would see that this is basically like a database management system right here. So what I could do is create a table, and I can name this table class. And one of the column names that can be in this class is the animal type. The type should be of type text. Now this type is representing the type we have in our JSON, which is going to end up storing the value of mammal or bird or reptile. And then I'm also going to put an img column to store the image URL of each of the mammals. And this should be fine for now. I can also add one more column. The image type should be of text as well. I should also add one more column, which is the ID. It should be of type integer. Okay, this is going to serve as the primary key. So we can select primary key, set it to ID, and then of course make sure it's unique so it's not repeated in the database. So before I click on add table, I want to make sure everybody is here and nobody's having issues. If you were able to get to conquer Docker. No, just yeah. Sam is asking if you should use UUID. Yes, of course, in a real app, you use UUID, but you will see the reason why I'm asking us to just use integer for now, because we have to run some queries that would depend on numbers. Okay, so just use IDs for now, but in your own apps, use UUID. My apologies for using IDs, but yes, your question makes sense. Cool. So just as a recap, give the table a name, create 3 columns, type to study the type of the class, animal class. It should be of data type text. Then create an image img column that will store the URL of the image text as well. And ID to serve as the primary key of this table, make it an integer, of course, make it unique. And then come right here and select the primary key field and set it to ID, just to tell Hasura that this is the column you want to be the primary key of this table. Oh, somebody's asking why do we want ID to be nullable? No, I'm just not being religious about it, but but yes, make it nullable if you want. It doesn't matter. It of course it matters, but it's just an example. So in real apps, yeah. Oh, rather, yeah, I'm actually confusing myself. This shouldn't be nullable. This should we have to enforce that it should have values, right? Yeah. I think I have some questions here. Shagun, can you paste the Docker Compose file you are using in the chat, in the Discord chat, and I'll take a look at it. So now you can click on the Add Table button to create a table. Now you can see it adds the class table right here. If you click on it, you can browse through the rows. Currently we have none. You can insert data from here. You can modify the database, like basically change the columns and the primary keys or the foreign keys if you want. You can set relationships, and you can even set permissions on who, like the level, like authorization based on what level of access should the user have to this table. But for now, I don't want to use any of this. I want to show you like the magic that Hasura does. And if you click on this GraphQL tab, you should see that Hasura basically generated queries based on that table. This is the mind-blowing thing about Hasura. Generated queries based on this, on that class we created. Now I can basically just go and query for the image and the type and the ID and run this query. And because you have an empty database, it would return an empty array. Now you can also create mutations. So if you come to this footer here, you can choose mutation instead of queries. Let's delete all this, pick mutation, click on the add button, and then let's just create an insert class mutation, which takes an ID of 1, and you can set the image URL to the normal URL. And then the type should be normal. And at the end of the day, we want to return all the affected rows. So you can see this is basically a GraphQL mutation called insert class with all the variables we want to pass the mutation. And if I run this query, it should return the affected rows. It doesn't give you back what was inserted, but it will tell you how many rows were affected during this insert operation. If I go back to queries, and click on class, and select this field once more, you can see now I'm getting data from my API. You can also look at your previous queries and mutation by clicking on history and taking a look at what you have here. Now, the magical thing about this is that if you go to the data tab once more and click on class, you can start seeing that the values we added in the table can now be found here. So this is basically both a database and a GraphQL API. Now we should add one more table, which is going to store all the animals. We'll call the table animal, and it's just going to take a name field, and the name field should be of type text. And it should also take an ID. Now, one cool thing about this is you can set the IDs to auto increment, so you don't have to add the IDs yourself. So whenever you add a value, it automatically adds a number that's a +1 to the previous row you added. And then the last one should be class ID, which is going to be a foreign key from the class table. It should also be an integer because the ID in class table is an integer. Now the primary key should be ID as well. And then we can also make it unique and save the table as well. And you can see that it creates an animal table here with no rows as well. I'll wait for your questions, and then if you're lost, I will move on. If you're lost, I will answer some of those questions and before I move on. So yeah, Gift is asking the data type for the image. It's of type text. Sorry, I forgot to add that in the guide, in the README guide. Ian, what's your error on the mutation? One thing you can also do is to use SQL to add values, to add tables, or just, you can basically run any SQL command against your Postgres database by clicking on the SQL tab here. I was going to use that to create animals, but yeah, I forgot to do that. But you can basically copy a query, this query, to create animal instead of using the UI. Now let's create a relationship. Okay. Ian, you forgot to add the affected rows that we are getting that error. Look at my screen once more. So this, what is happening is, if you create a query, if you create a mutation, let's go to the history, click on my mutation. Now you need to tell the mutation how many rows it should what it should return after the mutation, which is this affected row. I can't get enough room for this, but yeah, this is what's going on. So at the end of it, add the affected rows. Or you can just click affected rows here, and it will show you. It will basically appear here. Okay, so to create a relationship, because since we have since each animal belongs to a class, and each class have many animals, there's a one-to-many relationship here, where the one part is the class table and the many part is the animal table. So I would like to create this relationship, and from the many part of the table, first of all, go to the data menu, and then click from the many part of the table, which is the animal table. Click on relationships, or rather, click on modify, and then let's add a foreign key. If you click on modify, you should see the foreign keys section. Click on it. Now, the reference table should be class, which is the table we want to relate this table to. And then it should be from animals class ID to classes ID. Okay, so just as a recap, click on data, choose the animal table, come down to foreign keys and click the edit button. Now the reference table where we want to relate animal to is the class table. We want to relate between the class ID of animal and the ID of class. Now once you have this, save, and this will create a relationship. So you can see it's already showing this relationship between them in the foreign keys. But then there's something called objects and array relationships in Hasura. Now what happens is, in as much as I've created this, let's go back to queries. Now, sorry, Explorer. Click on add the query tab. Let's just delete everything I have here. Now, if I click on class, I was hoping to probably see also the animals that belong to this class here, but Hasura will not automatically add this connection for you, even after you've added the relationship. So what you need to do is go back to data table, click on the class table, click on relationships, and you can see it's suggesting an array relationship because we've added a foreign key to animal. It's suggesting an array relationship. Array relationship basically means that this particular table could have multiple animals. So if you click on add and save, go to animal, it should suggest an object relationship because one animal should belong to one class. So if you click on add as well and save, and when you come back to the GraphQL tab, you should see that under the class query, it starts suggesting animals. So we can query for animals that belong to a particular class. If I run this query and bring this back up, let me show the class as well. Class name. Here, type. And if I run this query once more, I should get that the class is of type mammal, but the animals array is still empty because I haven't added any animals yet. I'm going to take a look at the questions quickly. Adebola is asking an architecture question. So basically what's happening is Hasura, the power of Hasura is that it takes your database and converts into a GraphQL API. So if you've noticed, normally if you're writing GraphQL, you would have to write resolvers and types for this, but we are not doing any of that. It's basically, Hasura basically looks at your Postgres database, looks at the schema, and generates a GraphQL API from it. And you're also asking the relationship between Hasura and Docker. It's basically, Docker is just helping us set up the project. It's not, there's no relationship between them that is that significant. Adebola, it can be used it cannot be used to implement authentication, but it can be used to implement authorization. So if you just pass maybe your JWT to the header when you're making requests, it can help you using the permissions feature to define authorization. And if you keep following this workshop, the next thing I'm going to publish in this workshop is how to handle authentication and authorization with Hasura. So let's move on. So we've seen how to create a normal foreign key relationship and also to add an object and array relationship. Now let's add more data to our database. So if you come to the GitHub repository and copy the link, the code we have, the SQL code we have here, head back to Hasura. Now this is exercise 4, task 1, the seed class. Copy the SQL code we have here. Now head back to Hasura. Click on SQL, and I'm just going to clear this out and paste what I just copied. Now, what's happening here is that we are saying that this SQL command should insert into our class table, and it should insert into the ID, type, and image columns with the following values: 1 for mammal, 2 for bird, 3 for reptile, 4 for fish, and so on. But since we already have the mammal one with the ID 1, we can remove it. And then you can run this query, this SQL command. And you see that the SQL has been executed. So if you go to the class table, you should see a list of animals numbered 1 to 7 with their types and their image URLs. We should also be able to do the same thing for the animal table. Well, the animal table has a longer list you can get from this link. If you copy the link here, paste it in a new tab, gifts, were you able to assign, create the image column? I can copy the code from the animal, for the animal SQL, the animal SQL code rather, and then paste it in the SQL tab as well. Now what's happening here is that we're inserting into the animal table, and we're giving each animal a name and each animal a class ID. So you can see that an antelope is a mammal. That's why the class ID is 1, because the class ID of the class ID, the ID that has the value 1 in the class table is a mammal. If I run this, you have to scroll down to the bottom to see the run command, because this is a very long SQL query. If you run this, this should say the SQL was executed as well. And if we get to the animal table, you should see a long list of animals that are paginated. Feel free to ask questions if you are stuck at this point. Joshua, Hasura, it currently supports only Postgres, but I know the team is working on other databases. So yeah. But the cool thing about it is that personally, I'm a MongoDB person and I've not used Postgres. I've never used Postgres, but I don't care much because I have no reason to touch data directly. Most things I'm just doing is just to create tables, and I have a good UI to create those tables. Then most of my interaction with Hasura is from this tab, which is the GraphQL page. Now, we can start testing some of these queries. So if I ask for, if I run this query I had one more time, first of all, let's just run a query for all the classes. Return the type and run this. I would get a list of the 7 classes of animals that we'll have in our database. I can get their images as well. I can get their IDs and their images as well. You can see for each class, I get the type, the ID, and the image. And the amazing thing is I can also get the animals that belong to each of these classes. So I can get the animal name when I run this. So for each of the classes, I'm getting the data for the animals that belong to them. So you can see I've been able to model this dummy data we have here into a GraphQL API. So the next thing to do is to head to our React app and basically start using this API inside the React app. And to do that, we need to first of all install all the React libraries that we need for this. So at exercise 6, task 1, copy the npm install code you can see there and run it in your terminal. And when I say your terminal, I'm referring to the place where you have your React app set up. The folder you have your React app set up, run npm install. Copy the wrong thing. Copy and paste. Charles, I'll get to you very soon, okay? Why didn't my installation didn't work? That's weird. Oh, this was copied wrongly. So if you're looking at this code, please ignore from this. In fact, let me just push a change immediately so I don't get you all lost. So I'm just going to edit what I have here in the README. Should be exercise 6. So basically remove, I think I pasted this twice, that's why it's happening. So I'm going to remove this second part of the npm command and save. Of course, the easiest commit message. And then we can push. Yeah, thank you, Anne. So once this is done pushing, if I reload the README once more, we should. Yeah, so this is what we need to do. So just copy this. So please refresh the GitHub URL you have to get the updates. So copy this and let's run this one more time. I have to cd into my demo. Then run this. So while this is installing, let me just walk Charles through what's going on. And if you got lost, just pay attention. Charles, after you've added tables and the foreign key, what happens next is to add an object relationship. So if you go to data, go to class, go to relationships, you should see that there is suggested relationship here. Just add the relationship. Do the same thing for animal. Click on animal, click on relationships, and do the same relationship on the object side. Now after that, I had to basically click on this SQL tab, okay, and then copy the SQL queries you have here, these two SQL queries, and run them in this tab. And this second SQL query is incomplete because it's so long. So the link to it is attached here, and which you can find in GitHub gist. And this is it. So you can just copy this and run it. And when you're running the type SQL query, this one, since we already have manual to avoid running into errors, before running the command, delete the first time because you already have the manual type created. So we should have our installations completed. The next thing we need to do is basically set up Apollo client. So I can just copy this code. But to open your index.js file and paste this code here. I'm just going to move this down. So this basically creates an Apollo client. Okay. Now, instead of just rendering app, we're going to render app with the client we just created. So copy Apollo provider that contains app in it, that wraps app, and replace that with the app line. Okay. Now we need to replace this URL with the Hasura GraphQL URL. So if you go back to the GraphQL page, not the URL of the website, but the URL that you can find here. So just copy this URL under the GraphQL endpoint, and then paste it inside as the value of the URI property. Okay, if you're lost, let me know. If you couldn't figure this out, let me know. Gift, are you referring to the section for the npm install, right? That you're saying it's duplicated. I hope so. Cool. Now, in exercise 7, let's start querying the class from our GraphQL app. So copy this code. Basically, what's happening here is exactly the same thing we have here. So it's just the same thing. We want to run the same query, but from our app. So copy the same GraphQL query. And we're going to name the constant classes. But this time we'll paste it inside just before the app component, paste the variable or the constant that contains the query. We also need to import these two libraries. The first one is GQL, which we're using to create the query, and the use query is a React hook, which we use to actually run the query. So just paste it in as one of the imports we have. And we can then use this use query to make a request to Hasura. So basically create a query using use query and passing these classes to use query. Now this use query is going to return an object that contains three things: the loading, the error, and the data. So the loading state of this query. And whenever loading returns true, you should always probably show a loading text or something. Error is when something goes wrong, and the data. Now, if we're still loading, I want to return at this point a text that says that we are loading. If we have an error, I want to return something went wrong, but also log the error just for debugging purpose. Then lastly, if everything goes well, all I need to do is to replace initial data with data.class, if I'm correct. Yeah, data.class. Now if I save this and start the app one more time with npm starts, that's if you stop yours. And when I reload, I should get an error that says Apollo provider is not defined. So let's see what we forgot to import in index.js. I think I forgot to import Apollo provider somewhere. Now I don't know which exact library that comes in from, but let's see. Let's do some Googling. So Apollo client. Oh, thank you. Someone is saying, and Nicholas is saying import Apollo provider from React. So let's see if this works. Thank you, Nicholas. Yeah, it does work. So you can see we have all the classes we created listed here, and you can basically click on each of them. Amphibian will flip and show you all the animals that belong to the amphibian class. Fish would flip to show you all the animals that are listed here. Mammal, the same thing. Reptile, bugs, invertebrates, and so on. We are already running out of time, but I just want to quickly show you all one more example, which is basically how to extend this whole thing now. For me to be able to extend this API, we need to upgrade to a newer version of Hasura. I need to find that newer version. They'll give me 1 minute. I'm finding my existing project, so let's basically cd to projects /m/API. So basically what we're looking for is this. So I need to update Hasura to this version to be able to use this thing called actions, which is new to Hasura. Now if you replace your Hasura version with this, so basically just go to the version instead of version 1.1.0, which I think that's what everyone has, replace the version with version 1.2.0-beta.2. Now you don't have to follow along with this, but I'll just show you this cool thing, then you can go on and take a look at it yourself. So what happens is, first of all, I need to, of course, restart Docker with Docker compose or -d again. I hope so. I haven't saved this. If I run this one more time, yeah. Now, if I head back to the API to Hasura and reload, it should show me a new tab that says actions, and now I have the beta 2 available. So what actions are is there are situations where probably before you want to add probably a new animal, but then you want to probably validate the animal data, or probably you want to send an email to an admin that someone wants to bring a new animal to the zoo. We have to basically intercept this request as while it's coming in from the front end app. We need to intercept the request somewhere in the middle and do something with the data before, or validate the data before we allow it to be persisted in the database. So let's add a mutation So basically, if I'm trying to insert a new animal, what I can do with this is if I wrap this mutation inside, like wrap it inside a reusable mutation by passing down variables to it. Let's say give it a name of type string, and then pass that name into the mutation. We don't need the ID. Let's just remove the ID. Now, if I click on this button that says derived action, what will happen is Hasura would create something called an action based on that mutation. And what this basically means is that every time you try to run this action we're going to create now, if instead of running that mutation directly, if you run this action, Hasura will basically do something before you write to the database. So let's create something quickly. You can see the action is based on what the structure of that data, which is it takes in a name and then it returns the affected rows. So I'm just going to rename it from my mutation to create animal action. And then click create. And you can see this adds an action here. I click on this action tab and click on code gen. You can basically copy this node express example that is going to intercept this request every single time. This is like a serverless API. You can see that there's a node Hasura serverless function, and also copy the code you have here. And what basically happens is before when you run a query against this action and before you save anything to the database, this function gets called, and you can actually like do amazing things like validations, or like if you want to process payments or send SMSs and this kind of things. So yeah, that's just actions. I had it as a bonus exercise for everyone if you had enough time, but we're done. So if you want to learn more about serverless functions, click on this link. And then if you want to see how to create derived action from mutations, click on this link. Yeah, so please ask, can take 5 minutes to take your questions and then we can wrap up. Feel free to ask questions in the live chat or in the Q&A section. Yes. Thank you, Nicholas, for joining. If you're still stuck, feel free to ask me questions and I'll be able to help out. I think we are all going to get an email to the recording, right, Visha?
Hey, yeah, everyone will be getting a recording sent to their mail.
Cool. And I think I will also see if I can make something like a workshop like this for authentication. To basically show, because a lot of people have asked questions about authentication and authorization. So I'll see if I can have a workshop based on the content I was already working on how to set up authentication with Hasura and use it in your front end now. Thank you, Suraj. Thank you, Gift. Thank you, Delano. That means a lot to me. Also, before we started, while we were waiting for people to ask questions, before we started the workshop, we threw in our names, our Twitter handle, our location, and our time zone in the chat. So if you feel like doing that, please keep posting in the chat your name, your Twitter handle, your time zone, and your location. Yeah, Chike said that is his first time trying out GraphQL. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you, Chike. Cool. Bishop, you can like send out the resources if you have any other slides to show before we wrap up.
Hey, sure. Is there anything that you need to, is there any ending note from your side? I can just quickly wrap up by sharing the last few slides.
Yeah, let me just have thumbs up in the chat if you want me to do another workshop on authentication, and I'll be happy to do that. So if you're interested in having another workshop like this, but with authentication, using authentication, server-side rendering with Next and authorization as well, thumbs up. Yeah, I can see a lot of people saying that. Okay. Yeah, so Vision, I would plan another workshop probably in April. Yeah, of course in April because tomorrow is April. And
Yeah.
then please be aware of April Fools. Yeah, well, yeah, we would have another workshop.
All right. Glad everyone loved it. Seeing a lot of thumbs up in there. So,
Yeah.
Chris, you need to start prepping for another one.
Yeah.
Yay. Cool, cool.
Cool.
So, I'll share my screen now. Chris, all
Yeah.
right. Stop sharing. All right. Hey, folks, thank you so much for being such a kind and patient audience. You all were great. Chris, you were great. This was really exciting, and there's more exciting content coming up from our side. We'll be hosting a lot of, there are going to be a lot of upcoming webinars. So before I move on to that part, if anyone in the attendees, if you have any more questions, as I said earlier, you can just join our Discord channel that is dedicated to those questions by going to this link, discord.gg/Hasura. Go to the new new -2 GraphQL channel, and you can tag Christian there. Christian's handle is Chris #2114, and you can just ask away. So looking forward to all the exciting, super fun interactions going on in there. Also, everyone, if there's no need to worry if you missed any points, if someone joined in late, because eventually, like shortly, my colleague Harsha will be sending out the recordings of this workshop to everyone. So don't worry, you can just go over everything later and sort of try it out for yourself. And if you have any questions, even the Hasura team would be happy to take anything up and jump in on the discussions. All right, so as I said, there's a lot more exciting content coming up, a lot of webinars we're planning to organize soon. So if you want to keep yourself posted on that, if you want to keep a check on all the updates, just go to this bit.ly link, bit.ly/Hasura-webinar-updates to keep yourself updated. Subscribe there. And we'd love to hear from you, hear your feedbacks, any thoughts that you wanted to share about this workshop. Christian did a great job, so we really hope that everyone liked it and found it helpful. So you can share your thoughts in this link below, bit.ly/Christian-feedback. And in there, you can also let us know if there are any interesting topics that you'd be excited to learn more about. And we'd love to take those. We'd love to see if we can organize any future workshops around those topics.
Yeah, I would really appreciate everyone's feedback because it would help us see what makes more sense for the audience and what we should do better to make a better experience for you all.
Yeah, so all the resources will be sent to you shortly. I hope everyone had a fun, really nice learning experience with us. And thank you so much for joining us today. Hope everyone has a great day/night. So that's all from our side. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being here with us, Chris. You did a great job.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Bye.